Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome AJ. Glad to have you with me. So what this is an offshoot of my mix show. On my mix show, after the smoke is clear, I like to play new independent hip hop for people. And through the third season, I've been reaching out to people, from the scenes across the country, trying to learn more about the artists themselves, about their new projects. Inspiration, and just kind of like the local scene in general. So today I'm talking to AJA Louden. He's the first artist who isn't a musician, as far as I know anyways, that is joining the chat. But welcome aboard, man. How you been?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Thanks for having me, man. Always good to chop it up, bro.
Hell yeah. I'm glad you're here. It's been too long. I think like 2019 was last I saw you when you were down for the Hip Hop for Healing show there down here in Lethbridge. But I know you've been to Lethbridge since. I just didn't get a chance to get out to actually, catch up with you or whatever. I was having a crazy week that week. But you did a mural over a couple blocks downtown from where I'm at right now at behind the Penny, I believe, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was down there for like the mural festival. I was supported by the Allied Arts Council.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. We didn't get to link up that time. I think we was both both had too many things going on. But I look forward to linking next time I'm down for sure, man. Anytime I'm down south in Alberta.
Hell yeah, man. Check in for sure. Always good to see you. But, dude, I've been seeing more and more murals springing up around Lethbridge. So, I wanted to just give big ups to you and say thanks. I don't know how much of a part you actually had to play in all these murals, getting this go-ahead, or in the whole kind of mural movement coming here to Lethbridge. But I really appreciate seeing the color around as I walk around downtown. So, yeah, dude, I know you've been really involved in a lot of that type of beautifying of communities all around Alberta, dude. Like, just off the top of my head, I've seen you doing work in like Calgary. You've got stuff here in Lethbridge, Edmonton. Obviously, you're all over Edmonton. You're out in Banff, I've seen recently on your Instagram, right? Like out in the mountains working with youths and stuff. Dude, can I just get you to tell a little bit about, I don't know, let's just be real generalized. For people who don't know you, what do you do?
Yeah, so my background, like I grew up really interested in graffiti and street art. I was always drawing when I was like a little kid. My parents were both busy people, so they would just give me a pencil and some paper and just be like, yo, just draw for a minute, bro. So that was always kind of how I kept myself busy. And then I didn't really like, you'd think that art class in school would be my favorite class, but it wasn't for me. I always loved sciences more. I think I just didn't really like see the art that I connected with personally in the classroom.
Right.
And so for me, like, that's something I'm trying to change, is just like introduce students and kids at a younger age just to ideas of like what art could be that's maybe a little bit more outside of the box compared to the curriculum that they get in school right now.
Sure.
And so for me, I love to like challenge people's preconceptions about graffiti and street art, how they fit into like the world of like visual culture and public art in general. For me, a lot of times I use the term like unsanctioned public art, and so that's what I think like graffiti artists are doing. Like we're adding culture and creativity and messages to the world and to the community. We ain't asked for permission necessarily, but that is also like a strength of the art form, right? Like, is that we don't have to go through certain like official fields to get something said. And so I think to kind of expand on that point, when you look at times of like revolution or social change, you always look to the writing on the walls. So you look at like the Arab Spring Revolution, you could see these messages written on the wall. Or you look at the Berlin Wall when you had East and West Berlin divided, and the type of messages that were written on that wall. So like graffiti has a long history of being a form for expression for people that are normally silenced.
I mean, you use your works a lot of the time to convey messages, like the stuff for healthcare workers over the pandemic. I can remember, the United Clown Posse one that you were kind enough to let me use for the cover art for my song of that same name, all the way to like a few years back, like you were the Danielle Smith Bust Hits guy, right? That you did that one. Yeah, right. She's back in the news, man. It might be time for the follow-up sequel. Her versus whatever else from the UCP. God, man. But yeah, dude. So like, you've never been somebody who shied away from using art to convey messages, and like you're saying, I think you know, even if they can take us off platforms, if they can shut down the internet, like you said in the Arab Spring or whatever, that is a way that people can still get that message out there. It's you don't need the tech behind it to do that, to share these ideas and share that big picture with people. Is that something that kind of always drew you to art, or before the message was really important to you, was just art fun, kind of like?
Yeah, for me, like art is like primarily just a mode of like personal expression. I think art can do so many things within society, right? Like it's a way that we can communicate between individuals, we can communicate to groups, like it could just be for like self-expression, just relieving stress, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it was like always first just about having fun, and then that idea of like personal expression, or getting this idea out of my head onto a piece of paper. I can't really talk about it, but if I could just see it on paper, then it feels like I feel a sense of release.
Yeah.
So that's part of it for me. And then like once I learned to have a voice, then I learned to use that voice to kind of align with other things that I wanted to see happen in the world, right? So just using my skills as an artist to be able to communicate ideas that are more complicated than I'm able to just like verbalize, or maybe it's more compelling as an image than as a conversation, right?
Hell yeah.
I think that's part of it for me.
Yeah, man. So I know that, like, you know, you look at hip hop as a culture that has the four pillars, and some people might not know, you know, these four pillars of hip hop, but MCing, DJing, graffiti, and breakdance tend to be what people talk about as the four main elements of hip hop. But so I know that now you come at it from that cultural aspect and from that angle a lot. But I'm wondering, like, as you came up, was hip hop always tied to your visual art output, or at what point kind of did those two things cross over and you realized, like, oh, what I'm doing here is part of this bigger culture of hip hop, you know? Like, was it always tied in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think like our creative identity as artists is always a complicated thing, right? So like, I see myself as definitely somebody representing hip hop culture, and that's like really where I come from. But I'm also like 20 other things too.
Hell yeah.
And so for me, it's like my art is always the intersection of all these things. So like, there's a bit of hip hop in there, but like I grew up loving science fiction.
Right.
You know, I was a big nerd growing up. I loved Star Trek. Like I loved Asimov, reading sci-fi.
Well, and
like
a lot of your work isn't necessarily like just the kind of like stylized text that people think of when they think of like hip hop graffiti, right? Like it's not the tags and names. Yeah, rap letters, right? Like a lot of what you do and kind of have maybe developed a name for is the like photorealism stuff, which isn't, you know, it blows people's minds. It blew my mind when I first saw what you can do with it with a can, man. Like, and it's always kind of made me wonder, like I'm a guy who paints houses, so I've been around paint sprayers and, you know, Graco machines and all this kind of stuff, and know that there's a wide variety of tips and cans and even like paint quality that you can get or whatever. But I wanted to ask, like, just for a layman who doesn't know about the actual gear you need to be doing graffiti, is it like to do photorealistic stuff like that? Do you need extra gear that the average guy who's out doing graffiti doesn't have, or like how the hell are you doing that, man?
Yeah. No, I would say like no. You know, a lot of the people who kind of I looked up to when I was learning about that style, like just creating more photorealistic images, just with spray paint. A lot of guys I was looking up to and still look up to with that art form are using like not super sophisticated equipment, and it's just technique and skill and just kind of like an understanding of the medium. You know, it kind of becomes like an extension of your arm after a while. And so
Right.
For me, I would say for sure you could do it with cheap hardware store paint. When you look at a lot of the OGs in the late 70s and 80s, even the lettering styles they were making, but characters and everything, they were working with this like hard to get, inconsistent spray paint. It was like not nearly the quality that we're working with right now in terms of pigment and pressure and all this other stuff. And the stuff they were painting then still burns most writers today. Like easy.
Okay. Yeah, see, that was kind of what I was going to ask. Like, how important is that gear compared to the guy holding the can? Like, can people work with a can of Krylon? Like, is that still happening? Because anytime I see, you know, guys with Instagram where, you know, they're posting all their beautiful art, like they're using, you know, Loop or various other kind of bigger name artist brands more so, and I just kind of wonder, like, what for a guy looking to get into it, if I've got, you know, $200-300 and I just kind of want to try it, like, what do I need, man? Like, what should I be? Should I go with the big brands?
I would say if you just start out, just get your hands on whatever paint you could get, and it's practice and time and focus and studying the culture and understanding the craft. Yeah. All that stuff's gonna go way further than than just the fancy gimmicks and like the expensive paint. Like, it's almost like, for me, I think of like an MC, like if you got bars, it doesn't matter if you recorded on with the sock over the microphone in the closet with the egg cartons on the wall. It don't matter. If you got bars, the bars is there. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah,
so
I always say that, man.
Production spot, if you got the best, whatever, the beats wow, but your bars are trash, bro, we're not here for it. It doesn't matter how fancy the gear was. I don't care where you recorded it. If it's not hitting, it's not hitting. So if you don't have nothing to say in any medium, if you don't have something to say that's worth saying, it doesn't matter. You could spend all the money in the world on it. It's still, you know,
sure,
it's not gonna be what we're looking for as hip hop is.
How much of it is about like durability? Like I feel like I've seen people talk about like that, oh, certain paint will fade in a year or whatever. Like is the more expensive stuff, you actually get that more durable out of it?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, from that perspective, from a more technical or conservation perspective or whatever, it's almost like if you have the good engineer, it can, even if your bars aren't good, it might trick a few people.
Yeah, they might polish it up. Put that auto-tune on there, man.
Yeah, put that auto-tune on there, right? So there's some auto-tune type techniques within graffiti, but I feel like I can see when people do them. I can tell when most of your style is auto-tune.
Right.
I can tell when you can still sing underneath all that auto-tune, right?
Hell yeah.
So it's the same vibe, I think, man.
Totally.
But yeah, I would say that, like, if you're working on a professional level mural that you need to last for a decade or something like that, then like using higher quality pigments, using paint that's going to layer a little bit better, being conscious about that stuff, and then probably putting some kind of top coat on it to protect it too.
Sure. Clear coat it afterward.
If you don't have a good idea, it's going to look trash for 10 years, well protected. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. If you don't have the skills in the first place, you don't need it up there forever. Yeah.
The skills, and I say the concept too, man. The idea has to be tight too, because if you got all the skills in the world but you're just biting, it's still trash.
Yeah. You know, actually, before we started up here, I had a guy in chat. My friend Patrick asked, I just asked if anybody had questions in chat, and you just kind of made me think of one that he asked, and he said, like, can you read people's random graffiti? Like, if you just see a train going by, can you read that stuff, or is it, he says, is it gibberish for him like it is to the rest of us?
I would say, that's an interesting question. I say it's less likely gibberish to me, but still there's lots of pieces where I can't read, and there's certain styles I'm gonna read more easily than others just because I kind of have an affinity for them.
Right.
Like there's certain styles where people that I kind of hang out with, we might make fun of that style and say it kind of look like spaghetti letters. Just look like a whole pile of spaghetti on top of each other. There's no real form or structure underneath there.
Right.
It's just like, how busy can I make these letters look? If I have a lot of arrows flying everywhere,
crossing over everything.
Yeah. So that's, for me personally, that's not really like a style where I care to even read it. Like if I see that go by, I don't even care who wrote it because I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah, it was you talking about, like, do they have a concept that matters, that made me think of that. Because, like, yeah, people could just put something on the wall. If nobody knows what the hell that is or says, or I don't know. I mean, it still can beautify a place for sure, but I guess it's not really carrying the same weight as like something with a little bit of a message to it might be, or whatever else, right?
Yeah, and I mean, to add to that, I would say that the message, the content, the concept could just be style. Like the style could be original enough that you're saying something just stylistically.
Yeah.
So I think that's what draws my eye. You know, when I see somebody burn a train, I'm like, the style is fresh, the letter structure is there, it's well painted. You know, like they know how to use a spray can. It's not just like, so that would be one of the things I say too. The style could be the message.
Word. So dude, I know that like you have a studio space now. I wanted to talk about like what you've been doing there and what goes on in there or whatever, like, because you do a lot of big noticeable mural stuff around town, like we've mentioned, around the province. I don't know, probably around the country. I don't really know how far out you've got, but compare kind of like working on something like that that's going to be really public facing and big and visible, and a public project kind of in a public space or building, compared to I'm assuming that in your studio you're probably working on more personal, more I don't know, maybe commission stuff for people or whatever. Like, yeah, what's the difference there between like working out in the public and being in the studio?
Yeah, so like in the studio, we work on a few different things. So sometimes it's like personal work or like commissions that are like a little bit smaller in scale. So I'll be working on panels and then I go install those later. A lot of times though, we use the studio as like a production space too. So I just keep paint there. I'll kind of like set up for projects there, kind of have all my colors out ready to go. So I'm not bringing everything to the wall, but I can come back and grab certain kits or whatever, right?
Right.
So that's part of how we use this space.
So like a lot of storage and a lot of kind of planning, and then it's the base for taking out to the main place you're painting.
That's a big part of it, yeah. And then we do have like, I have a little spray booth in there so I can like spray paint indoors in the winter. So like we have a short mural season here. So what I'll do during the winter is like, super short.
Yeah.
So I'll paint on like panels. I'll put these panels up on the wall in my studio. I got this big fan and a hood and everything. And then we paint these panels and then I can go install them in the winter, but I don't have to be painting outside.
That's kind of funny. I never thought of that, man. Like you have managed to become a mural artist in one of the least likely cities to have a mural artist get recognized. I feel like, right? Like there's not as much time when people are outside walking around to look at the art. There's not as, so dude, it's pretty amazing to me, and always has been amazing that like we met, I want to say like 07, 08 or something at a hip hop in the park. And it was my friend who I think had went to some type of art school, like post-secondary art school with you, who introduced us, Caleb, my old homie. Yeah, man. And you know, like it just made me think kind of coming into this interview about like a lot of people go get those kind of degrees or those kind of courses, artistic courses, and come out and don't really find any way to make any money off of it. You know what I mean? And dude, you've managed over the last, 15 years I've known you, maybe, to kind of cement yourself in, and now are paying bills by making your art. And dude, like I saw you commented on the Ghetto Socks interview when Ghetto Socks was talking about how, for him it was good to maintain multiple sources of revenue because it allows him to have creative freedom, and not have to worry about doing what's going to make money with his art. And it made me think like, dude, AJ might kind of have dodged that whole, like, it seems like you're doing what you would want to be doing and managing to pay bills with it and have a studio and expanding and getting more known and everything, man. Like, kudos, whatever you've done it well. Speak on that though. Like, is having other revenue streams important to being able to be free in your art?
Yeah, like I think what I picked up on from what Ghetto Socks was saying there was like just the importance of diversifying just the ways that you get paper, and also like the ways that people see you expressing your art. So I think those two different things, but both important, right? And so for me, like my business as an artist is split up. So like people know me for murals, and a lot of people know me for workshops or working with youth as well. And then I do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes in terms of like administrating and sitting on like arts juries and like mentoring other upcoming younger artists, a bunch of different stuff like that.
Sure. I wanted to talk about the younger guys too, man, not to cut you off, but the whole, like, I know you've been really active doing a lot of these workshops, and like I think maybe just kind of as the pandemic's been coming to a close or whatever it's doing, as the restrictions have been coming off anyways, I've seen you more and more out, working with people, and I think it's great that you can get out and do those kind of workshops, man. But like, can you talk a bit about how those come around, like, or what organizations you're working with to find youth who want to do that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so like kind of on the subject of just kind of from a business perspective as an artist of keeping things diverse, that's like one of the things that I do as an artist, and as kind of what my studio does as a business is like work in these mentorship ways, right? So I'll work with an institution like a school, or sometimes an art gallery or a library, stuff like that, right? Like public institutions that serve the greater good of the public. Yeah. I'll work with them and set up a series of workshops or a workshop to have youth come out and be able to like learn the skills that I didn't find in art class. So, you know, like I said, art class should have been my favorite class, but like it just wasn't speaking my language. So I'm trying to make sure that these kids have access to art that does speak their language.
Yeah.
And like whether we wait for the curriculum to catch up, whatever, like I don't know necessarily that's going to be the way to do it. I think sometimes we got to be like a little bit ahead of the curve.
We got a scary curriculum coming in here in Alberta right now. Last I looked, man, I can't imagine there's going to be much, you know, emphasis on promoting the arts in schools. I think, you know, you hear about those programs get cut more and more over the years across the board, not just here in Alberta, but like here we've got conservatives in charge for so long that it amazes me that there are schools that still have money for programs to, you know, to put towards bringing people in to teach the kids art like that. I think it's super important though, man. You know, like you said, like especially for them to see art presented in a way that isn't, I don't know, staunch and stuffy and kind of just like boring, you know, like it's not taught by some old person who they can't relate to or whatever. Like, it's good to have you out there pushing it to the youth, man. And I know that also you teach a lot of the roots. You know, you've already mentioned some of the roots in the 80s and the styles that the guys were using there too. And I think that's real important with hip hop, that we still show love to the roots of the culture, right? And yeah, man, I mean, I think you've done a great job at doing all that, dude. I don't want to take up too much of your time or whatever, though, tonight. I figured we'd keep this one short. So I know you mentioned you'd had a busy day and haven't been able to eat yet. So I want to ask you just a couple more pointed little questions here, and then we can wrap it up, dude. I appreciate you being here. But
sure.
I know you listen to a lot of rap. Last time I saw you, you put me onto some new stuff. What have you been listening to lately, whether it's local or otherwise?
Yeah, what have we? Let me pull my little jukebox out my pocket here.
Yeah.
What have I been listening to?
And then this kind of rolls in, I guess, to the second thing I was going to ask is, like, I always ask people put light on their own community. You know, if there are other artists around them who they think people should know about, give some shouts to them. So whether that's musicians or you know, other visual artists or writers or whatever in your case, yeah, whoever you want to give shouts to.
Yeah, for real. So locally, I would say check out the young homie J-Cat, Jonathan Cardinal.
Yeah.
You follow me on my stories, you've probably seen me bigging him up every once in a while. I think he's out there killing it.
He does so much beautiful work, man. Like, whether it's like I see him doing skateboards and t-shirts and like custom jackets for people and stuff. Yeah, J-Cat's dope.
Yeah, super dope, man. And he's like one of those artists too. It's really nice to catch artists right when they're on the cusp of just cracking through, and then, you know, then they're gonna be making art for the rest of their life type vibe.
Get your custom jacket now. The prices are going up, probably.
No, that's today's prices, not today's price.
Right.
For real,
yeah, man.
So yeah, visual artist wise, that's somebody who's doing the work. In terms of community building and also being an MC, I think Kaz Mega locally is doing that work too.
Hell yeah.
He's been cutting it up behind the scenes and just providing platforms for other artists. But if you catch him in the cypher, man, protect your neck every time. So yeah, that's another cat doing
that. Guy gets busy, man. One of the best freestylers that I've personally, you know, seen and witnessed, for sure. Yeah.
For sure, man. Yeah, definitely. And then music-wise, this band Blackjacks, like BLK, JKS, that's somebody I've been checking out. It's not local, but it's something that's just the vibe I've been really vibing with lately.
Okay.
Last Lupe project, I thought Lupe back on his bullshit, man. That drill music in Zion was crazy.
Yeah.
I thought that was fire. I was definitely
great album
for that.
Yeah.
The Joey Badass recent project too, I thought was good. I like Griselda. I like gangster rap too, so I like Griselda. I like where they're going with stuff too. So
yeah, I constantly like everything Benny's on, man. I'm just like, this is so good. These guys are just saying like basic gangster rap shit, but they're saying it 30 years into gangster rap in new ways that I still haven't heard people doing it. So yeah,
it's different. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Benny
man.
And J. Cole, that track was crazy. The John P. Caddy, I think it's called something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's about all for Flying Formation. I mean, I've asked you, I guess, like, you know, I could ask you some more kind of basic questions. Let me look at my other questions I ask people, man. Here's one that we definitely need to cover. Where can people find you on social media?
It's at AJA Louden. So AJ Louden on everything.
On everything. Perfect.
Yeah, just on everything. Hit me up.
Right on. And yeah, I don't really have too much else that I need to ask, bro, but I'm glad you came through, you know.
Yeah, for real. I appreciate you, man. I want to leave with one gem, just in case there's any visual artists in the audience.
Yeah.
Just I want to finish up that point talking about keeping a diverse offering as a business, just purely from a business perspective, but also from a perspective of an artist wanting to explore different things, right? So for me, I do a lot of workshops. I work with small businesses to create art for their small business. I do art shows at galleries, but those don't generally pay the bills too much, but I do them kind of to get my name out and to reach new communities, right?
Yeah.
I do a lot of work with community, so like community-oriented murals, so I'll kind of meet with community, do workshops, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's like a bunch of different ways that I'm putting different types of art out into the world. And for me, that was like probably one of the best gems to understand how to turn my passion into a business, is understanding how it's valuable to different types of people. So art is valuable to a small business owner in a different way than it's valuable to a school or a community, in a different way than it's valuable to whatever, somebody else, like art gallery, right?
You know, dude.
Understanding.
Yeah, man. This afternoon, I was walking down the street. I saw a mural going up just down 3rd Ave in Lethbridge, and it's on the side of a building that was a business that I had never noticed before. And I said to my wife, like, has that thing always been there? And she was like, yeah, that business has been there for a while now. I hadn't noticed it because it wasn't really catching my eye or whatever, but just going down the street and seeing it. So, you know, that made me realize, hey, that's a business I should probably check out, you know?
Yeah, man. So that's the lesson for me, is like really understanding why art is valuable to different people will help you get the most back out of the art that you're giving them, right? So if I know why it's valuable to this business owner, that it's going to help people notice their business, then I can think about doing art in a way that really like leans into that understanding, right? So maybe I'll make it extra, maybe I'll use a certain color palette to really make it pop out from the surroundings, because I know that's what that business owner needs out of this piece of art. If I'm going to a school or a youth group or a community, it's more about the experience of art making for the students. Right. So if we don't come out with the perfect, beautiful professional piece at the end, that's actually not the final goal. But so if I understand that, then I can come in prepared to make sure they get the most value out of their experience, right? So just kind of coming from the ability, for me, it's about empathy, like being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Yeah. So just being empathetic with the people that you're making art for, and being able to understand it from that perspective, as opposed to feeling like you got to sell out. That's not what it's about. It's about understanding why what you're doing is valuable for people and making sure it really hits that mark for them. And then, you know, you got your personal work as well, if you really need to just be purely free and not worry about any of these things. Right. But I'm just talking about like, how do you make it as a business when you're an artist, right? And so I want to show from my perspective how it worked for me. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but that's been a very valuable gem for me.
Hell yeah. Dude, I was just thinking as you were talking too, like probably as a visual artist, social media like Instagram is going to be even more important than it is for like a musician to promote themselves. I feel like as important as it is for musicians even that to always be engaged on social media like that. Like I feel like since it's a visual medium, Instagram really lends itself, and I mean, you know, the various other ones too, really lend themselves to sharing kind of visual art with the world. And I think you've done that really well. So yeah, if people aren't following you on all the socials, they should be or whatever.
No, yeah, appreciate it.
But how, like, do you feel like I'm right in that? Like social media presence important in the visual art world?
I would say it can be important, and it's like, I would say it's increasingly difficult to like make it really far without one. Like more and more people go to check your social media presence to see if you're legit. They kind of get some sense of you from there. Yeah. And then they, you know.
But and it works like a portfolio too, right? Like
it can, if you use it like that, it can. Yeah, for sure. I would say at the same time though too, it's like human connections are more important. So like I know a lot of people that might have 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 followers on social media, but if none of those people feel connected to you, then like they're not actually gonna they're not gonna buy a piece of art. Like they might just be following you for your boobs or whatever, right? So like just like if you only got 1,000 followers, but they all real fans, that's way better. It's cliche, but like from a business perspective, it's just like those are the people who are going to tell their friend to tell their friend to tell their friend about you. If they just on there scrolling and they're like, oh yeah, this is another, you know, it's not going to have the same amount of value. So don't focus on numbers. Don't be like, oh, once I have 10,000 followers, then I'm hitting. Yeah. Instagram is playing you, man.
It might help, but the handshakes and the relationships you're building are going to probably be more important for you. That's what you're saying? Something along those lines.
I'm not saying probably. I'm saying definitely.
Yeah, word. Yeah, man. I mean, as far as like just kind of inspiration, man. Like, do you ever feel like they talk about writer's block for writers, dude? Is that a thing for visual artists? Do you ever feel like it's tough to create? I know, you know, when I got this job down here in Lethbridge that I had a few years back, working at Arches there, making music 5 days a week, I was like, can I do this on cue 5 days a week? Like, you know, when they tell me to. And yeah, I learned I could. But like, do you ever run into like I just don't feel like creating today, but I've got to?
Yeah, it happens all the time. That's, to me, is like the difference between like professionalism or just doing it kind of like because it's fun or it's a fun release for you. Yeah. Like I do this professionally. Like if I wake up and I don't feel good about, I gotta do it. Like I've got to finish that mural because I got another mural the next week. I don't, you know. So like that, take that with a grain of salt too. Like there is days where I'm just not hitting it. I'm like, you know what? Today I'm sleeping in and I'm rolling backwards at 11 a.m. and like that's gonna be my day today. But at the same time, like you can't have too many days in a week because no one's like, I'm not on salary. Like I pay me.
Sure, so you get to be your own boss.
Yeah, exactly. So so for me, I've just learned like a lot of different techniques to get around creative blocks. One of them is just having a bunch of different irons in a fire at once. So if I'm feeling a little bit stifled on one project or like creatively stagnant on one project, I got 8 other things I'm working on. So I'm gonna just flip the switch and move on to something else. And I'm gonna feel invigorated then. And I also have like a good understanding of what inspires me. And so it's not something random anymore. Like I know where the wells of inspiration exist in the world for me. So sometimes it's just about going to those wells, and sometimes that well is a backwood, and sometimes it's music. Other times it's food is really important for me. Food is really like a key source of inspiration, especially for color. Yeah. So if I don't know what colors I'm feeling, I could go eat. I need to eat something decent. I can't just go eat McDonald's or whatever. But I go get a banh mi or go get a certain dish, you know, some boboti, go get a certain dish, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, I see this mauve color with this yam orange. I see them coming through with the ivory color, and then
got to nourish the body and mind to get what it can give you, right?
For real. And like it has to be the right type of stimulant too. Like it can't just be cheap little nothing. Like you really got to be, you know, garbage in, garbage out type thing. So make sure you treat your creativity. You got to fuel that with high quality fuel, man.
Yeah, man. Dude, one thing I've been asking all the musicians I've been talking to, or at least most of them, is, so I feel like in 2022, nobody pays for music at this point. Like DJs and like guys whose best homie is the rapper or whatever might buy that rapper's shit, or there might be small little groups that like they'll buy vinyl, you know, mostly DJs I feel like buying the vinyls or whatever, but you do see people selling out vinyls, they're selling out their tapes when they drop or whatever, so somebody's out there buying it. But for the most part, when you talk to a random person on the street and you tell them, hey, I bought $40 worth of music yesterday, they think you're nuts, and they're like, where would you even buy music if you wanted to? Like there's no more HMV, there's, you know, what, and so I've been kind of asking guys like, what is the way for fans to support artists and, you know, musicians? But I want to flip that just over to the visual art world. Like, what's the best way for fans who, you know, maybe they follow you on Instagram or whatever, they follow you around on the various places, or they've met you in person and they like what you do and they just want to help, you know, they want to show support, they want to, like, what's the best way to do it? Do you got merch, or like do you sell commissions? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. So every artist is different for sure. For me, I sell a little bit of merch, and that's kind of something like, that's something I'm still working on, is like building out some like art or something that I could like have for people that want to spend, or they love my work, they want to support.
Shouts to Piney P, man. Shouts to Piney P.
Yeah, my boy Piney P. That's what he out here doing, hustling, man, making that paper.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, it's like, for me, I'm mostly focused on murals, so like all my art is really big. So like if you got a budget of $500 even, I really can't do a huge amount with that.
Yeah.
My supplies cost so much. Like I got an assistant that I got to pay too, so like
totally
my cost to make something is really high. So for me,
I was lucky. I hit you back in the day when you know, I could still get work for that dollar amount. You know, you did an album for me. I've still got it right here above my my computer. Yeah, feeling pretty good. Volume 2.
I pulled up. I was fired up to see that too.
Yeah, man, I still got it. I mean, like, you can't get rid of something like that. I'll have that in my studio till I die, man. Why not? But yeah, dude. So I think like it's important though that people do realize, you know, that art isn't free to make, and that whether it's buying merch or whether it's you know, just telling another friend about it, putting other people onto it in a genuine way. People feel like it's cheesy to be like, hey man, like I know a guy who makes this music, or I know a guy who does this dope graffiti or whatever, but like really that's what the scene and just community in general needs more of, is people who are unashamed to promote one another. And you know, that's kind of what I'm trying to do here with ATSIC and Fly Information and shit, is just like spread love, because like, why not? I like all these people's music. I wish more people liked all these people's music. I was always the guy in high school who liked sharing people's music. You know, let's just spread love. So I see you doing that a lot, man. And in various ways you support the community. So I want to give, you know, big props to you for always showing out to, you know, Cypher 5, painting there. You know, when Creation was putting those on, just events like that, hip hop in the park all the time, coming down to do hip hop for healing, and sharing the skills, dropping gems for people, man. It means a lot. So thanks, dude.
Hey, yeah, it's dope. It's nice to get my flowers, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, bro. Yeah, man. I believe in all that stuff too. I just know that's a big part of how I got here, right? And those first graffiti artists, they were not getting paid. Niggas was getting arrested, man. So like, I just think about what they had to pay into this culture, the dudes that were paid by the forefathers, you know, the giants whose shoulders we're all standing on. Yeah. And like, we owe it to them to pay some dues. And like, you know, I got the rap sheet too, man. I've been paying that type of dues.
Hell yeah.
There's also this other layer of dues we could pay, but just by making sure people understand where this culture came from. It can't get appropriated by these corporations if we're always telling the stories of where it really came from, right? Like, Cool Herc should be rich, bro.
Oh man, yeah, he definitely should be. There's a lot of rappers who owe that man a lot of money, I would say. And they won't even admit it, a lot of them, right?
Some of them don't know.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even know, bro.
Fair enough. You just reminded me as you were saying that, though, that, like, you know, a lot of guys caught charges for this. A lot of guys still do catch charges for that. You know, and I know that, like, in Edmonton, you had a part in getting the free walls up. Did you not?
Yeah, for sure. So that's something I'm still trying to do in some of these small towns too, like in Fort Mac. I just came back from a trip up in Fort Mac, and that was a big part of the conversation with the municipality there. It was like, cool, I can come in and teach, but also like when I'm gone, you guys need a space for people to practice. You need to stop criminalizing it so that you can have people from Fort Mac learning about muralism.
Yeah.
Because like so many of the muralists today that are working that are dope come from graffiti and street art backgrounds. So it's like you criminalize that culture, you really cutting off the tree at the root in a sense, right? So if you want people making visual art in your community, you have to understand that graffiti and street art are a big part culturally of where visual art is coming from today at the muralism scale.
And you know what, realistically, I feel like that graffiti charge is probably a charge that leads a lot of people into a cycle of, you know, more crime or whatever. Because like once you get those small little charges on you, it's tougher to get jobs, it's tougher to this, that, the other thing, right? You know, working with a homeless population, I always saw just people getting any little charge, it just fucks you, you know, like they just end up ducking warrants and this, that, and the other thing, or in and out of jail or whatever, and it's tough to break those cycles once they get started. So I think in the same way that like a lot of, you know, I support decriminalization and you know, we shouldn't be charging anybody with possession of illicit substances, in my opinion, because of that kind of same reason. It's this like little bullshit charge that doesn't really stop anything in society from happening. You know, it's not really saving anybody. It's not saving anybody's property to charge a guy with graffiti. Like, it's already been done, and there's always going to be another guy out there doing it. You know, it's like one of those wars that they're not going to win, but they fight it anyways. So we're talking about free walls, and I didn't really get a chance to say, but like a free wall is a place that a lot of communities have where it's legal for artists to go and paint and practice. And a lot of the murals, you know, that I've seen you do have been on free walls around town. So like, Yeah, I was hoping we can get one in Lethbridge. You know, we had talked about that kind of last when you were down here or whatever even. And like, I think that's a big thing that communities should be doing. We should have more places where it's available to make art in public spaces, whether that's visual or, you know, studios and libraries and stuff like that too, right? The more access society has to art, the better, you know?
Yeah, totally, man. I agree.
Yeah, man. But, yo, like I said, I'll let you go, man. I'll let you get to your meal. Thanks for checking in. Appreciate you doing this. And, yeah, anytime you need anything promoted, let me know. I'll shout it out on ATSIC.
Oh, thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Best of luck with the next few episodes of ATSIC, man. It's been dope keeping up with things and just checking the mixes and everything. So yeah, man, I love what you're doing down there.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Keep tapping in. There's always so much good music coming out. I can't keep up, but yeah. All right, man. Peace.
Peace, homie.
All right. So, there we go. That was the Flying Formation with AJA Louden. Good guy, good friend. I was happy to talk with him. And if you don't know him, you should check out his stuff. AJA, like just the letters AJA Louden, Louden, on all the socials. And yeah, get at him. If you, you know, maybe you have some sort of youth group that you think like might be interested in learning how to do graffiti, learning graffiti techniques, learning where it's legal to do graffiti and how to do it in ways that aren't going to get you arrested. And I don't mean like ducking the law, I mean like finding free walls and stuff like that. AJ is always a big advocate for that type of stuff. You know, I've never seen him be anything but a good influence for the youths out here, and we need more like him. So happy to talk to him. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, After the Smoke is Clear is weekly on mixcloud.com/Doobyis. Doobyis.com is the hub for everything I do. The show plays weekly on CKXU 88.3 FM in Southern Alberta, Mondays at 9, Thursdays at 11. Shouts to CKXU. And shouts to G Radio. You can also catch it on G Radio Monday nights. That's an Edmonton-based internet radio station. And yeah, thanks for coming through, peeps.